I don't have too much time to record an introduction, so you're gonna get a bit of an intro in the middle of my run with Artie. Ready? Get it. So if you have a new dog, a puppy, an older dog that's just starting to be a little bit naughty at home, I'm talking about like barking at the door or counter surfing or getting into the bins or jumping on guests, any of these things that can happen at home, then I'm gonna give you the easiest tip that I can give to get rid of all of those unwanted behaviors. So if you haven't seen me before, my name is Kristen, I'm from Salty Pack. This is my Belgian Malinois, Artie. So a house leash is basically just what it sounds like. It's a leash that a dog wears at home. The reason that we use it is so that we can stop unwanted behaviors. So a house leash generally is going to be a little bit of like a thinner leash that a dog can kind of just wear around the house, and we'll kind of get into how it might look a little bit later as well too. The reason that we use house leashes is basically because if you are here watching this video, it's probably because your dog cannot handle the amount of freedom that you're giving it. So in order to block unwanted behaviors, we must be able to stop them before they continue to happen or to interrupt when they have happened. The best way to do that is by putting on a leash inside and just being able to give that feedback to your dog. Okay, you ready? Get it. So Artie is now almost 3 years old, but when we first brought him home at about 8 or 9 months, I had no idea if he had lived in a house, if he knew any house manners. So for the first 2 weeks, he pretty much lived on a leash or in his crate. So if I was not supervising him, he was put away. The first week, I held the leash the entire time, and I just went around the house and gave him any feedback for things that I didn't want him doing. The second week, I was able to have that leash dragging behind and then being able to give that feedback if I needed to. If I can figure it out, I'll put a little example video somewhere in this area right here that you can watch really briefly. What are you doing? I think my dog broke. So now that we know what a house leash is and why we might want to use it, how are we going to use it? So again, if you've got a dog that has maybe just come into your home and sort of like me with my situation with Artie, you don't really know its background. In that case, I would probably spend a couple of weeks really locking down some of your house manners that you would like to see. Good. Get it. So what that might look like is you are going to be following your dog around like I had in the video with Artie. You're going to be following your dog around, give a bit of a verbal signal like no, stop, something that is going to be what you would like to use and what just naturally comes out of your mouth. So I want you to try and focus on using a verbal signal and then giving a little bit of those tapping feedback to your dog just to block the unwanted behavior. So we're trying to tell the dog, no, I would not like you doing that. This uncomfortable, like just sort of like tapping feeling is going to start when you start that behavior, but it will stop when you stop that behavior. And eventually what the dog is going to learn is every time that you give that verbal signal that we're now going to be installing for the dog, that they should avoid doing that behavior because it is uncomfortable for them. That's the whole idea of this. When we're training with the house leash, because I personally don't want necessarily any arousal in my house, I personally don't use food to train the behaviors that I would like. Because realistically at home, I don't really care what my dogs do. I just don't want them counter surfing. For me, I don't want any play in my house. I don't want too high arousal. And that's just for reasons that I have with my personal dogs. I don't want them stealing things. That's like kind of it. Like I really don't care what they do in the house. My dogs are allowed on the couch. They can pretty much cruise around anywhere they want to. I just don't want a few behaviors. So that's the reason that I just want to tell them all the things that there's only a few things that I don't want them to do, but I don't care if they sit on their mat, if they sit on the couch, if they cruise around, if they follow, like it doesn't really matter what they do otherwise. I just don't want them doing those couple of things. For me as well, for example, with Artie, if I had given him food, that kind of always means that there may be a bubbling suspension for like anticipating what is going to happen happen next. If that feels like your dog, I wouldn't use food in this case. The eventual or the occasional, like, good job, good boy, like, that's what I like you doing otherwise, like, that's totally fine, because nobody can resist walking by their dogs, like, sleeping on a couch going like, oh my gosh, he's the bestest boy. So those little bits of feedback are fine, but the house leash is to teach the dogs what we do not want them doing. Jumping up on visitors, for example, if you had that leash on inside, you could then be able to block the behavior of them rushing towards the door as your guests come in. You're holding them back. Hey, we're just doing some training at the moment. Like, I will let you know when Fido's ready to say hi, and that's when Fido is nice and at least a little bit calmer with 4 paws on the ground, and then gets to go in and say hi. Jumping on the guests can be a little bit of like a frustrating thing on leash for some dogs. In that case, we might even recommend doing a different type of protocol if the leash carries a little bit too much frustration for the moment. Where is it? You gotta bring it here. Gotta bring it here. So the video you're about to see in a moment is just a really quick example of how that also looks with Willow the Rottweiler, who we did at her house as well. So with using a leash now, hopefully you understand the kind of concept of what a house leash is, why we use it, how to use it, and then you're going to see it practically happen. You saw a little bit of a demo with Artie with that video that I posted, and then now you'll see a little bit of a demo with Willow. All right, and a couple points that I didn't mention was making sure that in the how section of using your house leash, don't leave your dog probably like on the leash unsupervised, particularly if you're working on chewing. And also another thing that you can do in terms of your why section is if you are working on a little bit of like separation anxiety with your dog, this can actually also be a nice way to work on some tie outs with them, to get a little bit more separation from you, as well as if they are not crate trained, you can use a tie out instead. Now, if you're going, again, my dog is going to chew the leash probably, just be creative. There's going to be some like really small kind of like chained leashes, or just like some chains that you could probably get inside. Like, this is short-term pain for long-term gain in terms of all of the behaviors that this is going to help you with. So with Willow, the Rottweiler, she's very cheeky. I think you're like nearly 3, aren't you, girly? But she's still stealing things, very much like a puppy behavior. So if it was my dog, what I would probably do is just have her on a leash for like probably a week. It's gonna be like a little bit of this like short-term pain for long-term gain. So we've been putting foil on like the tea towels and things, and what we might be thinking that Willow is like kind of grabbing these for like attention-seeking behaviors, but it's even happening after we've like had quite a lot of fulfillment for her. So it could just be a behavior that she's doing, but there could be sort of this like miscommunication of what's actually happening. Lots of like jumping up on like bench tops and things like that. So for what I would do, I would have her on the leash. Now, probably your first day or so, I would be managing almost everything. So go back, it's very puppy behavior. Go back to pretending that she's a puppy, honestly. So you're following her around the house, and again, she probably will, for the first day or so, think that she's going for a walk. So the first day or so, we're just kind of getting her like used to wearing the leash in the house and not actually going for a walk. So if you have a really excitable dog as well too, whenever they go for a walk, this is gonna help us out. So we're just gonna be like following her around. Say that, like, again, the tea towel thing, say we were like kind of just like walking over here and just like wanted to see what she would be doing. If she started stealing the tea towels, we can go, hey, don't do that, right? She doesn't get any other feedback for anything else in the house. Generally, how I live with my dogs in the house is like pretty cool, calm, collected. So if they, like, there's only really like a couple of rules that I don't want them to do. Like, don't counter surf, don't fight in the house. It's like pretty much it. As long as it's chill. Like, I also don't love like high arousal in my house, but once we go downstairs and outside, like all the fun things happen. So for me in my home, we don't play or anything like that. You can still play, like I believe that you can have your cake and eat it too, but again, it's this clarity piece for her. So like if I can play in the house, how come I can't just like play with the tea towels, right? So for the first like day or so, you might just like be walking around with her. Like if there's anything, you can even kind of like bait her for a couple of things potentially, or just do things as naturally as you would. So if you're following her around on that leash, once she's figured out, oh, I'm not actually going for a walk, this is where we can give that feedback of like, hey, don't do that. She doesn't get any other feedback. So I'm not really even using food in this case. If she was to go for the tea towels, hey, don't do that. Just a couple of taps on that harness until she stops. So you can say, nope, whatever you're gonna say to be like, that is the incorrect behavior here. And then you can go about doing your, like, the rest of the little walk around of the house. Now I don't want you going like, okay, so she chooses to be on the couch. Nice, that's what I want you doing. Because at home, I don't really want her anticipating anything. I just want to like coexist with my dog. So I don't want there to be any anticipation of rewards. I just want it to be like, cool, that's good. Nice little like pat, low level, like that's all it really needs to be essentially for her. So hopefully that makes sense. So you can kind of like go around and she's like, I don't know, being weird about the like curtains. You can see if she'll come around here and then you can give her a couple of taps. Again, give your marker, nope, stop, whatever it's going to be, then follow up with the follow-up that you're going to give. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that we can kind of bait her for. It seems mostly like the tea towels that are kind of like sitting there. Now, after the first or second day, if we have maybe given her like a couple of those little like corrections like, nope, stop, whatever it's going to be, and she goes, oh, that's right, I'm not supposed to do that, I would still probably leave the leash on her for like maybe another few days. So depending on how fast she can learn these things, for some dogs, you might be living on the leash, following her around and like managing her every move. Sorry, sweetie, I know it was a little sketchy there. And if she's not being managed, then she's back in the crate or outside or somewhere so that she's not making any mistakes. Then you pull her out and then she's on the leash, for example. I think with her, you're gonna be able to skip ahead quite quickly. So then the next like few days, then we just have our house line, our drag leash, whatever you wanna call it. The only downfall of this is you do have to be mindful about it getting caught on things. So just be aware of that. And maybe just for a couple of days, just like leash proof your house, for example. So in that case, then if you're sitting on the couch and you can give your verbal like, nope, stop, whatever you were going to say, even if she stops like taking the tea towel or she drops it or something, because you've marked it, you must go like, hey, I don't like it when you do that. Otherwise, it becomes this spicy little game. So she's gonna go, oh, they're sitting on the couch. And then she steals the tea towel and you go, nope, stop, whatever you're gonna say. And then she stops it and you go, good girl. And she goes, oh, they didn't get me for that one. So it becomes a little spicy. So if we mark it, nope, stop, whatever you're gonna say, you must follow through with that feedback for her. So again, maybe day or so of on leash. For some dogs, it might be a little bit longer of you following them around on leash and being very high management because it's a puppy behavior. Treat her like a puppy. Then the next few days, just gonna be that drag leash, that house leash, whatever you wanna call it. You're only giving feedback for the things that they are not allowed to do. You'll inevitably be like, nice, I was so proud of you. That was really good, sweetie. And it's gonna be lower level because you're living in the house with her and you don't want it to go like crazy high arousal. So a few days with the drag leash, and then you can kind of test it as well. So you wouldn't have her on the leash. Does she really respond to your no, stop? And if she does not, without having the leash on, go back to having the leash on. So it must be that verbal correction, and it must be clear every time that you guys do it as well too. I think she'll learn pretty quickly. But yeah, it's just a little bit of a tidy up. If she's acting like a puppy, treat her like a puppy. Good job. In an online world filled with a ton of good trainers giving a lot of really great content, we're really excited that you are here with us. So if you want more content like this one, click on that button, and please click on this one to subscribe. The more people who subscribe to our page or comment, like, rate, share, doing anything that you can just helps to get more people like you seeing our videos for free. Thank you again. We'll see you next time.